Hello everybody, Jacob Bartley here for Comic Hero Talk, and this is my review for the DC animated feature film Batman: The Killing Joke. Please enjoy. Well, hey there, like I said, this is my review of Batman: The Killing Joke, the DC animated film that was just released this past Tuesday on Blu-ray and DVD. However, you may have heard that they had a special two-night screening of the movie for people who went and bought tickets, and you can call me one of those people. I was so excited to watch this movie for a few reasons, because first of all, I've never read the Killing Joke graphic novel. I've never read it. I would love to, I have not seen it at any comic book stores. I have to go out of my way to buy it. Eventually I will, but I just have not read it, so I was interested and intrigued in the popular storyline in general. Second of all, it was going to be R-rated, which I don't have to have my superhero movies R-rated, whether they're animated or live action, but for this source material, from what I've heard about it, I was excited to see an R-rated adaptation of it. Third of all, I was excited to watch an animated feature film made by DC in theaters. I usually watch the movies when they come out. I usually rent them on YouTube or Google Play or something like that. But I've never seen one that didn't already have a theatrical release in theaters. So for those reasons, I was really excited to watch this movie. And I watched it, and I gotta say, overall, I was a little disappointed with the film. I liked a lot of elements and different parts in it, but overall, it just wasn't that good. And there's a lot of controversy going around about this movie, about some explicit stuff, about a sex scene, about how they added a whole nother story arc in the beginning of the movie that had nothing to do with the original graphic novel, and those aren't the reasons why I didn't like it. It had to do with just the movie as a whole. Now let me just talk about my overall impressions of the film. I'll talk about my positives, my negatives, and then I'm going to talk about the controversy surrounding the movie and why that's not why I didn't like it. First of all, the things that I like about it, it focuses on Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, Jim Gordon's daughter. I actually liked that element of it. A lot of people are complaining that in the graphic novel, she didn't really have any character development or her own story arc. She was just a plot device to get the story going. In this movie, they set it up to where she's kind of narrating at least the first half of the movie and kind of the entire film, and they build on her character. In the first 20 to 30 minutes, it's all about her and her relationship with Batman. And yes, that's when the sex scene happens, and that's not something I had a problem with. It's an R-rated movie. They can do whatever they want in it. But I did enjoy seeing things from her perspective and how Batman kind of treats whoever he's training like a lesser individual. And I know it's part of all his training. He doesn't want someone to get ahead of themselves and think that they're not ready or do stuff when they're not ready. But I enjoyed that aspect of the story, how she's telling it and how you kind of see what it's like to be Batman's sidekick and how negative things can come from it. Also, I did like how Batman just interacts with everyone around his world. Again, they did it in all the movies. They did it in the Red Hood. They did it in The Dark Knight Returns. Just the way Batman is and his storyline is always good, and it's pretty much always the same in all these animated films, and I really like that. I like the look and feel of it. I like the Joker in it, obviously. The Joker is always awesome, and you get some Joker origin. Now, for those of you who have read the graphic novel, you already know this, but to a lot of people, this is the only Joker origin they've ever heard, and this is kind of the only Joker origins I've ever heard. I thought there was no comic that ever tried to tread on the Joker's origin, and this source material and the movie does. And while I didn't love the throwback scenes with the Joker, I did appreciate having some type of background story for him, and it kind of, made me feel for the Joker in a way, but at the same time I understand that he's freaking crazy, and they definitely showcase that near the end of the film. Now, those are some things I really enjoyed. Some of the action was pretty awesome too. Now there's some things I didn't like about it. Now, you've heard that the first part of the movie focuses on Barbara Gordon. I liked that part of the movie. And then the second half kind of tells the actual Killing Joke story. Now, the problem is it feels like two separate movies. That's the problem I had with it. This is coming from somebody who hasn't read the graphic novel, so I didn't have any problems with the way they told Barbara Gordon's story. And it did do one thing, which is give her character more depth. However, once that first story arc ends with her, about 30 minutes into the movie, the story has a time jump, and it feels like a completely different movie. You could have split these two parts in half and had a second half for the first half that focused more on what was going on there, and then had a first half to the second half and focused what's going on there. The first half could have been a Batgirl movie. The second half could have been The Killing Joke, and I understand, I've heard that the source material is not long enough to make a whole feature film, so that's why they added the Barbara Gordon part. Now, for me, it's an issue because it felt like two different movies, not because I mind the Barbara Gordon part like most people have. Another thing is just, I don't know, it felt a little too cheesy to me. Especially parts in the second half with the Joker and the things he was doing. It's a R-rated movie, and at times it felt like it was made for kids, and I do feel like they held back a little bit with the rated R stuff. Like, they imply things earlier in the movie that happened, and then they kind of bounce around it later on in the movie, and I say, you're going for a rated R, it's going to be rated R, go for it. Go all the way if you're going to go rated R. I still felt like this movie could have been rated PG-13. Honestly, if it was live action, it probably would have been rated PG-13. There's not a lot in here that would make it rated R, but because it's an animated film, I think it gets that R rating just because usually animated films are kid-friendly. Now, the DC animated films usually aren't. They're usually PG-13, but kids can still watch them. I would not recommend kids watch this movie. Trust me, it's dark, but in reality, it probably should have got a PG-13 rating because it doesn't go as far as you would think a rated R movie would go. Now, for me, there's always this story arc in the Batman stories where he doesn't kill people and how he wants to do it the right way. And the Joker kind of pushes the limits as far as he can go in this movie. And I feel like Batman wasn't tempted enough to want to kill him. Like, there's this overarching story where Batman's like, one day, they show this in the trailer, and this is a popular line from the graphic novel, I'm sure, but one day, one of us are going to kill one another, talking to the Joker. And I never felt that Batman was tempted to do it. He faces him with the altercation at the end, and he easily just doesn't kill him. And spoiler alert, sorry for that, but for those of you who've read the graphic novel, I'm sure it ends up the same way. Now, those were some of my problems with the film overall. But overall, I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I liked it. And now let's talk about the controversy a little bit, okay? Now, a lot of people are coming out like, oh my goodness, there's a sex scene. Oh my goodness, they implied that the Joker raped Batgirl. Yes, these things are explicit and they should not be in a kids movie, but this isn't a kids movie. It's a rated R film. This should be okay in a rated R film. We see live action movies all the time, or dramas or anything, or thrillers or horror movies that have sex and imply rape in them. It's okay to creatively have these things in your movies. They're not real for most of the part unless they're telling a true story. I think people react too much to, oh my god, Batgirl and Batman had a sex scene. Who cares? It helped tell the story. And you could have took from the movie that the Joker raped Batgirl. And they didn't flat out say it, but if they were implying that, they should be able to without there being this whole controversy. And a lot of people might say that's sexist. I don't believe that. And I just believe if you're going to make a movie rated R, you should be able to push the limits and go as far as you're able to go in a rated R movie. And I don't understand why there's so much controversy. People are so sensitive these days, and I think people just need to stop being like that, especially when you're critiquing a rated R movie. I had no problem whatsoever with some of the edgy stuff that happened in this film. So there you have it. My review, my positives, my negatives, and my thoughts on the whole controversy going on. Overall, I said it a bunch of times, I did like this movie. I did not love it. I would love to see another Batman movie in the theaters. They just announced a Batman and Harley Quinn animated film coming out in theaters sometime probably next year. I would love to watch that in theaters, and I think that could be rated R too. So there you go. Now, I usually give my movies a score out of 10, so I'm going to give Batman the Killing Joke a 6.5 out of 10. It just didn't do it for me all the way. There were certain things I really loved, but I ended up just saying, yeah, it's okay. Well, sorry, my voice squeaked a little bit. There you have it, my review of Batman the Killing Joke. Thank you all for listening. I am Jacob Bartley for Comic Hero Talk. You can find me on Twitter at JacobBartley_. You can find me on this YouTube channel, Comic Hero Talk. Please subscribe, hit that like button, hit me up in the comment section. And go follow Comic Hero Talk on Instagram. I recently created an Instagram account. I try to post stuff every day on there, little thoughts on comics I read, thoughts on movies I see, and stuff like that. So go check out Comic Hero Talk on Instagram. Thank you all for listening again. Until next time, take care.